going. Okay.
So,
Just when you was born, you were one of 8 children. Yeah.
well, you know, I was born in Poland, large Poland.
You're very religious parents.
And my parents were very religious, my grandparents were very religious families. And we were 8 kids, we were 4 girls and 4 boys. And when
He was a great businessman.
my father was a businessman, he was a representative of the French company Allard in Rousseau. How I remember that name, still I will never understand it. He was the middleman between that company, and Lodge was called the second Manchester because we had made a lot of we had a lot of factories where they made, you know, materials. And he was a representative between the factories and the company, and taking orders for the threads that makes the
Was it thread or cloth or finished goods? Was it thread, or was it material, or was it finished?
No, he had the thread. They got the factories. Allard also had a thread, and they delivered. My father was the representative and took orders from the factories. He never saw the you know,
Finished goods.
No, he never saw he didn't even see the thread because it went straight to the factory. He wrote up the order and it went straight to the factory. So all he had the office and a bookkeeper. And I mean, we were financially we were very well off. We were 8 kids, and all the kids were private schools. The boys were private schools, the girls were in private schools. And my mother was, she devoted her life to charity. Her whole life was devoted to charity. It's to a point that my father at one time got very, very upset, and you know, and these, in our families, in these families, there were no fights, you know, between husband and wife, or you know, the respect of the kids, you know, the respect for the parents was great. We didn't need spanking, we had enough. If my father looked at me, I knew he's unhappy. I knew I cannot do that because, first of all, we loved him to death because he was such a gentleman.
He was known in the family.
And
my father and my father.
They were such gentle people that, and we loved him to death. We would do anything for him. But once my mother, I think she went overboard because she did a lot of charity, and her life was charity, to help the poor. Once she took care of a shut-in, a woman who was paralyzed in a wheelchair. But she would get a Polish woman to stay with this woman, take care of the woman. One day that woman, the caretaker, got drunk and left her. And neighbors came to my mother to tell us that the poor woman is alone. My mother couldn't find right away somebody to be with her, so she sent me. And I was about, I would say 14. And she sent me, and I went to stay with her overnight to help her get off to the bathroom and all that. And I was scared to death. I mean, I'm a kid myself, you know. And I couldn't take it. And I walked home in the middle of the night. And in Poland, we lived in apartment houses, and they locked the doors. 11 o'clock, the doors, the gates were locked. 11 o'clock, they locked them. If you came later, you had to pull a string because you didn't have an electric bell. You pulled a string and the bell was ringing in the caretaker's house. So he would come out and open the door. And he came out and opened the door. And it wasn't easy to begin with. It was not safe for me to walk in the middle of the night in the street in Poland. And when I knocked on the door, and my father jumped out, you know, because he got scared in Poland. Somebody knocks in the middle of the night, you get scared, because the Polish people, some drunks could get and come and, you know, invade your house and do whatever they wanted. So when my father saw me, he said, "Where was I?" And then I told him where. But then my father was very, very upset. He said, "From now on, don't you ever dare to do anything like this. What you do in the daytime, what you want to do, it's your business. But don't involve the kids at night." And I was very upset because I upset my parents. I felt guilty that because of me, they had a fight. So I felt very, very guilty. But at the same token, I was scared.
Of course.
But my mother was otherwise. She was great. She devoted her whole life for poor people. When I was coming home from school, I had a place where I had to stop in that place. I picked up a dinner in that place, and I had to take that dinner to a poor family. Wednesday, Thursday, my mother would send out the girls to different merchants, and they would give us flour, sugar, a holly, a bread, all kind of stuff, cooked stuff for Shabbat. We bring it home to the house, and my mother would make packages, rations, and then send us to different people, and we had to deliver this.
What did she do when the war broke
And
out?
once I remember she gave me money to go to somebody because it was winter and it was very, very cold. And she gave me money to go to that family and to give money so they can buy some coal. And I came into that house. Icicles. I'm talking before the war. Icicles on the walls. The kids in the beds, freezing, and the mother kissing my hands. I'm a kid, and the mother kissing my hands. It broke my heart. I stood there and cried like a baby. And then I think I understood what my mother is doing and what she's accomplishing.
What happened
And then-
when the war broke out? What did she do? When the war broke out, what did she do? How did she? When the war broke out and the Nazis occupied.
Then, when the war broke out, and they put us into the ghetto, and my father was diabetic. Before they put us in the ghetto, I didn't look so typically Jewish because my eyes were not black and my hair were not black. Today I'm gray. And I put on blue, so I looked more like a little not typically Jewish. And I was staying in lines for food, and I was getting it. And they never caught me. Then when we got to the ghetto, I didn't want to stay in the ghetto. Somehow I took over, you know, my mother fell apart. Everybody kind of fell apart. I said, I'm not going to stay here. And I went to Warsaw with the mind to get an apartment and get everybody out. And I couldn't get a place in Warsaw. So I went to a town near Warsaw, Żyrardów. I got an apartment there. And I had taken some stuff with me too. But then I got a postcard. The mail was still going. That my father is very sick, to come back. And I came back, and my father was in the hospital. That time, the ghetto was not closed, so we still could get out. We still could go to a hospital. The treatment in the hospital was great, was terrible. But then he died in April 1940. And while we were sitting Shiva, they closed the ghetto, and I couldn't get out anymore. And I need a little water.
You were about 14?
No, that time I was older. I was born in 1918. And the war broke out in 1939. And somehow I took over. Somehow everybody fell apart. My mother fell apart, everybody fell apart. Somehow I took over. And I tried to keep things going. Our grandfather was a dozer. Do you know what a dozer means? A councilman. And Rumkowski, if I need a little water. Can I get a little water? I'm not doing myself. My cardiologist would kill me for this. You know.
Your grandfather would have been a good name.
My grandfather was a councilman in Łódź, in Poland before the war. So was Rumkowski.
Did she start out talking, identifying herself, to introduce herself? I don't remember if she did that. Her name and where she was born in the town. Did she do that?
No, she didn't.
I don't think she started out, because I could edit it. I could put it in.
State your name and where you were.
I'm not doing myself. I'm not doing.
Just know that you were born in Łódź.
Just your name and where you were born, what country?
Well, I was born in Łódź, Poland in 1918. And my name is, in Łódź was, my Hebrew name is Bracha, Katz. I said the date. And they called me Bronka.
How many in your family
Everywhere,
at that time?
8 children.
8 children?
Yeah, 4 girls and 4 boys. And except there were 3 married. Yes? Elo, Gil, Moshe. Yeah, 3 were married. And my oldest brother was not in the Lodz ghetto. He was in a smaller town, not far from Lodz.
That was during the occupation.
This was during the occupation, yeah. And
Did you experience a lot of anti-Semitism when you were during the occupation,
what,
or before the occupation?
no, what I wanted to say, I mentioned about my grandfather, that he was a councilman, and Rumkowski was also a councilman. So they knew each other. And I took advantage of it. And I went to Rumkowski, and I told him that I am Abram Katz's granddaughter. And I got some privileges.
That helped.
I shouldn't do that.
I thank you so much. So after the war, after the war.
I tell you during the war something. I want to tell you something about during the war.
Okay.
My youngest brother lived through the war. How he lived through, I really don't know. But because I had privileges from Rumkowski, there was a place where like a little hotel, where for 8 days, if you got there, you got food as much as you wanted. You got food, and which was the most important part.
This was during the occupation.
Yeah, this was during the occupation. The place was called, this area was called Marishin. And Rumkowski set up a little place like this. And some adults, if you had the connections, so how some adults would go there for 8 days, and it would be like to go to paradise, because you could eat as much as you want. You were not hungry. And I went there, and I got my youngest brother to go there. The only thing what happened, that one night the Germans came and they surrounded that camp and took them all. And they were passing by my street. And I heard the trucks. It was late at night, and I heard the trucks. And I looked down, and I see the children, and I knew where they got them from. When I went out, and I said, I don't care what they're going to do to me, but I knew my brother's there. And I got a policeman, a Jewish policeman. And I said, you got to take me to Rumkowski right now. He did. And got them off the truck. And he's the one who lived through. How he did it, I don't know. But I got him off the truck. I really, he was much younger. He was the youngest. He was 5 years. My mother already was in change of life, and 5 years later he came, and I really was his mother in the ghetto. I took him with me to work. I had a good job in the office, and he was really too young, but I took him and we made him a little older, and he got a ration card. Otherwise, he wouldn't get a ration card. And what really happened in the ghetto, what happened, the older people and the young children were not supposed to be there. They did not get rations. So what Rumkowski did, which we got to give him credit for it, he divided it for everybody equally. The children and the older people got their rations. The Germans, we didn't get it, which meant that a part was taken away from us. But it didn't matter because it was my mother there. It was my children of my sister, a child for my sister and my younger brother. So, but this he did. He divided it equally. So the older people got it and the children got it. So this I got to give him credit for. And Rumkowski, I mean, there's a lot to talk about Rumkowski, but he really thought that he is going to save us. He really fought for it. And he really had to do what he was told to do, because he was a Jew just like any other Jew, and if he wouldn't do it, it would do. So he did a lot of things hoping that he's going to save the ghetto, the people in the ghetto. Yeah, I mean, you can talk about Rumkowski a lot because everybody, I mean, he did good things, he did bad things. Because he took advantage of young girls, young women, and from what I heard that this happened, he was a director of a orphanage home. Orphanage home. And from what I heard already, that it happened already before the war in that orphanage home. And here he was king, and he could get anybody he wanted, right? So there's a lot. There's a lot.
So he did good things and bad things. He was forced.
But he honestly believed that he is going to save us. He believed it. And you know, when they came, the Germans came in 42 and surrounded areas and took the people, you know. I mean, he appealed to the people that so many people, that people should come forward, but he was under orders.
Yeah, I read about it.
So you knew him, huh?
I beg your pardon?
You knew Rumkowski. You knew him, Rumkowski.
Oh, I knew him well. I told you, I went to him.
Yes.
And I got to admit he did favors for me.
Yeah. He was on the
Because,
council.
you know, a good job meant a lot.
Yeah.
And I got a good job.
Through his help.
I got a good,
Through his help. Through Rumkowski's
He
help.
was king.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
everybody was selfish. At this time, everybody was looking out for
Of
themselves.
course.
He was on the council with your grandfather.
Well, that's where the connection came.
Yeah, they were both members. There were about 20 people on the council, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
So it was a small group.
You know, in Poland, there was a Jewish government within the Polish government. So the Jews got the gmina, it's called the gmina, you know, and then the Jews had to pay taxes to the Jewish government, you couldn't bury somebody if you didn't pay the taxes, and somebody died. They wouldn't bury him till you paid the taxes. They had their own laws and all that. So it was like a little government within the government.
Yeah.
The Jewish in the different parties. Like here you got the Republican parties, Democrat parties. There you got here you got only two parties. How many? We had 300,000 Jews. We had 300,000 parties.
Wow. Wow.
You know, when you got 10 Jews,
Yeah, 10 parties, yeah.
you got 10 parties. So you had different parties, you know, from different parties. It's a matter of fact, we got the picture. Your mother got the picture, and it tells you which party. Yeah, I got a picture. You know what Kenda, my cousin Kenda found? You don't know? You don't know that?
Right.
No, wait a minute. Fred found it.
Ah.
Then Kenda found it too. Fred found it. In archives, he was researching, and in the archives he found he found that our grandfather found a picture, but the picture, we cannot see the picture of our grandfather. It looks like a half a table was taken.
Oh.
But you got the names who was at that year on the council. We got with that, your mother got the document. I got it, she got it. Ask her, she will show it to you.
Oh. I want to continue where we...
I thought we were talking about the government.
Domkowski.
Yeah.
What happened
Well,
after the war? That was during occupation.
what happened after the war?
Yeah, after the...
Okay, I tell you what happened.
with the family.
Yeah,
who survived
how did you get back to lunch?
That's what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I was in Auschwitz like everybody else. But I was lucky. I did not stay there too long. And I was sent to a concentration camp, Christianstadt. And we came to Christianstadt. There were 500 girls from Poland, 500 girls from Czechoslovakia, and 500 girls from Hungary. When we came, the Czech girls were there already, and the Hungarian girls were there already. We were the last ones to come. The Czech girls got the best jobs. To begin with, they spoke German.
Who liberated you?
Huh?
Who were the liberators?
No, let me finish about this.
Hmm?
This was before the liberation. You were
This I'm
this
talking.
is before liberation.
This I'm talking
Oh,
before the liberation.
Okay.
I'm going to get to the liberation.
That's fine.
So when we got there, the Czech girls got the best jobs. The best job means in the kitchen, in the camp, you know, the good job in the offices, because they spoke German, and they were the first ones in the camp. We were the last ones. When 5 o'clock in the morning, appeal. Okay? We stay, and they start asking, who is a dressmaker? Who is a whatever occupation? And girls pick up their hands. She's a dressmaker. This is all kind of occupations. I had no occupation. But at the end, I said to myself, I got to have something. I got to pick up my hand that I got occupation. Because the Jewish girls from Hasidic families did not work and did not have any occupations. So finally, I said to myself, I got to have something. So I picked up my hand, and I said, I am a carpenter. Because other occupations were taken already. So I'm a carpenter. Okay.
At age what, 14?
No.
Well, how old were you?
No, I was still. This was look. I was born in 18, and this was in 44. No,
Okay.
44.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm a carpenter. Okay. So they took me in the morning. They took the people. They took us on the guard to work, and took me to the woods. And there is a German foreman. We're going to cut trees. Where is me? How do I cut trees? What do I do? Cutting trees. And they give us a saw and with another girl and cut trees. Scared to death. But no choice. Somehow we did it. And then from the trees we had to make wood, cut it,
Like
not in
boards?
pieces.
Boards? Big boards?
Like boards, yeah, for building. Okay. Then we had cut enough wood and all that, and then they take us to build houses. Family houses, not apartment houses, thank God. Family houses. So I'm a carpenter, and other girls are mixing the cement, and we had a foreman, and we also had a few men from other camps, from other nationalities. Poland and from Hungary, and so there were some men too, because after all the girls couldn't do all the job, but so I was a carpenter, okay. And then
How long did that last?
well, it lasted till January 45. January 45, where I was in camp, there was a little river, and the name was Bobe, River Bobe, and the town was Christianstadt. And on one side is the German army, which I'm with, and the other side is the Russian army. Okay, and over that water, the bombs are flying. The German army, everybody, oh no, I didn't tell you how I got there. When I ran away from camp, I should stop with that. When the Germans started coming, what they did, they went from camp to camp, liquidated the camps, took the people with the intention of drowning them or taking them to other gas chambers and to get rid of them. When people came to our camp and we asked what's going on, they told us the story, and they told us that they're marching, and if you cannot walk, you fall down, that's the end. So they had opened up, they had a warehouse for the SS, for the people that ran the camp. They had a warehouse with clothes. And they opened up the warehouse, and I went in and I got some clothes, and I put something, and I had some for my head, and I had my girlfriend's sister was with me in that camp. And we were together. I took care of her as much as I could. We dressed up. We were, we were surrounded, and we were in the woods. The camp was in the woods. Sunday, by the way, they came from the town to look at us and make fun of us and all that. And we had a searchlight, right, going around the camp. As long as I was a carpenter, we had our tools in a shack. I broke into that shack. And I took wire cutters. And took my girlfriend in the middle of the night when it was dark, watched where the searchlight is not on us, it's on the other side. I cut the wire. All I had to do is cross the road and get into the woods on the other side, out of the camp. And it was the end of December, cold, freezing snow. And then it's dark, we're in the woods, we don't know where to go. So I decided, the girl she was completely, she didn't know what's going on. So I said, look, we cannot walk at night because we might walk back to our camp or someplace. Let's stay in the woods till daylight, and we'll see better where the camp is. And we stayed till daylight, and we started walking away from the camp. The camp didn't bother because they didn't know what's going on. They didn't know who's missing, who's not missing, because people came from the other camps. So we got into a town. I come into a small town. And who do you think I meet? My foreman.
Oops.
But let me tell you something. He was thinking of his own skin then.
Obviously.
He thought that maybe as a Jew, because the Russians were on their backs. And if the Russians come in, and I will say a few good words for him, then he might be saved. So he had his reasons for doing it. He took us to his house, brought us clothes like they were. We ate the best food. If somebody knocked on the door, they put us down in the cellar. And we really got on our feet. But the Russians were coming. And they evacuated that town. It was a small town. And they evacuated the town. Okay? And he wanted us to go with them. And I said, look, they were going towards Berlin, right? I said, look, why would I want to go with you? I'm running away from you. I used to be very brave. Eva knows I had a nickname. I was a tomboy. I had a nickname in the family. I was a tomboy, and I was gutsy.
Yeah. That saved your life.
And wait a minute. The guy took pails of water, pails with food, and took us to the woods with the Luftwaffe. They had the quarters in the woods. but the Luftwaffe was gone, and he put us there, and we had quarters there with bedding, with everything, and he brought us water and food, but we were alone.
You and your girlfriend.
And we didn't know how long we stayed there. My girlfriend started getting mental. She said she doesn't care, she's going out. If they shoot her, she cannot take it anymore. I couldn't let her go by herself, so I figured I went with her. But when we came to the town, there were a few old people and a few Polish girls that worked on the farms. So I don't know if there may be 20 people in the whole town. And a few very, very old German people. Okay. And then a couple of days later, the Russians came in. Okay. And we were in the war. Like I said, the Germans were on one side. The bombs are coming. The Germans, the soldiers, they didn't know from nothing. They didn't know Jewish or not Jewish. They didn't know if my head is covered because I don't have hair. They didn't care. We worked in the kitchen peeling potatoes for them. And one day in the morning, we said we could pick any house we wanted. There were houses with everything. And we stayed in the house, and a bomb hit us. And we jumped out from the first floor. And you know what? We didn't even have a scratch. It was unbelievable. And then when the Russians liberated us, the war was still going on, right?
This was when?
This was the beginning of January. So we started going back to the part where it was liberated. So, you know, we had bicycles. They left everything. You came in some houses, the food was still hot on the stove. They left the last minute. The food was still hot on the stove. We'd go any house and take anything we wanted, but all we wanted, you know, food. We didn't care to look for anything, just we wanted a decent dress and food. And we were going towards Poland, which took me 6 weeks. Sometimes we were lucky and we got into a coal wagons, coal trains that got transporting coal, and we would get in there. So, but we walked. Sometimes, you know, the bicycles. Sometimes, you know, those red wagons what kids got. You know, one would sit in the wagon, the other would pull the wagon. You know, I don't know. But it took us 6 weeks. And I got to lodge, and in January, I was in lodge already. And that's how I found your mother. Because your father came to register to me. And when I came to lodge, I started working like here at the Jewish Social Service. What our job was to give the people that came from concentration camps, and this was early that time, not too many people came because the war was still on, to give them a clothes, give them a ration card, and give them a place to sleep. So we registered them. So we had like in the bank, like you go into the bank, you got the windows, right? You know, they tell us in different windows, and that's how we worked. We were different, the office had windows, different girls. we gave each other the names. If you come across a name like this, let me know. So we gave each other the family names, right? The people who came to register. So your dad came to me. He came to lodge. And he came to me, and I was registering him. Naturally, everybody who came, I was asking, where did you come from? Who is there? And he tells me, he told, and he tells me that Eva is there, Eva Gerst is there. I couldn't believe it. Then Edda came, I registered Edda. I couldn't, that was the purpose of me working there. And then one day I went out with the girls. We had a place, we went out for lunch. A few girls. And my boss, he was the head of the... in the meantime, I'm jumping ahead. In the meantime, I changed my job because the conditions, the rations were not that good and all that. And I had a friend who worked in a different office, and she got me a better job there. So I left this job. In the meantime, a letter came to this, where I worked before, and my boss, that he was in charge, there came a letter for me. So he said, I will take it to her. Give it to me, I bring it to her. In the meantime, he forgot, he didn't have time, he kept it in his pocket. And one day, we had a place where we used to meet for lunch. And I'm sitting there. We're sitting, a bunch of girls meeting. He comes in. Oh, he said, Bronka, I'm sorry, I got a letter for you in my pocket maybe a month. And I wanted to bring it personally to you, but in the meantime, you know how it is. And he gives me that letter. And I was with a friend that knew me from home. Because, there were different girls from, not all from lodge, But this girl knew me from home. And she took a look, and she said, she saw our address. It came from Italy, and she saw the name Katz. And because when I looked at it, when I saw the Katz, I fainted. And she knew I fainted. So then when I came through, we opened the letter, and it was from my brother, for my youngest brother. He was in Italy, in Florence, in a camp. He was a young kid in the Israeli brigade. There was an Israeli brigade that fought with England.
Yes.
Their job was to pick up the kids, take them to Italy, and take them to Israel. A lot of people left. I only came back to lodge because the last words I had with my family was, whatever happens, we're coming back to this town. So we'll know. So that's why this was the last word when we knew what's happening. And he, in turn, was in Italy. A lot of people left lodge. They came and they left. I left later on too. I didn't stay either because who wanted to stay under the Russians? The Russians took over Poland, right? Lodge, Poland. Who wanted to stay with them? So, it was just a waiting period we waited till maybe they come, maybe the war wasn't over yet, for sure I waited till. In the meantime, people were leaving and coming to that camp. When they came to the camp, he kept asking, did you come across a name like this? Maybe you met a person with this name, asking about his brothers and sisters. And somebody told him, oh yes, she's working in the Jewish Social Service in Lodz. And that's where I got the letter from Michael. And that's how we found the letter.
Amazing. Incredible.
But that took him to Israel. And I eventually got married, and we had a child in Germany. We waited for a while. Germany just Moses. Now my son is a year younger than Moses, and eventually we left because who wanted to stay in Poland with the Russians, which was some journey. And my brother was in Israel. And then in Israel, we had all intentions to go to Israel. We even bought a refrigerator. But the news was that we're not going to Israel. We're going to Cyprus, to a camp. And I said, oh no. I'm not going to another camp. No way. And then, the war broke out, and my brother was in the war. And, thank God he lived through the war. He was a major in the war. And thank God he lived through the war. And thank God that I got him. And no sign of anybody else. And so my mother go to the question. At least I got a grave for my father. Went back to Poland. I put up mitzvahs. My father and my grandfather are together, one next to the other.
Yeah, we saw it.
You saw it?
Yes.
I know you were there.
Yeah, we were there, but the grandfather, his grave had been there a long time. I think both of them were there a long time. They were there when we went.
What?
They were there when we went in 1990.
Well, we put up in savers. I was, as a matter of fact, we went 3 times. We went back to Poland because Mark couldn't find his mother's grave. And then his father went to Warsaw because his sister lived in Warsaw. And I thought in Warsaw will be better. So father went to Warsaw. And then he died. We knew that he died in Warsaw. And we had to go, and we went through, the whole cemetery. As a matter of fact, there was a rabbi in Warsaw, Rabbi Yoskowitz. He was from Israel. He was commuting from Poland to Israel because the family didn't want to be in Poland. So he was commuting, And he went with us to the cemetery. And it was a whole process, But finally, we found it and made a mitzvah with it too, But I couldn't find my grandmother. We couldn't find we couldn't find the grandmother. We couldn't find the. We couldn't find I couldn't find my sister that died in the ghetto.
We found the spot where my mother's father was buried. It was found because we found records in the Vinaya.
I couldn't find my sister who died in the ghetto.
But I have to find them.
And
Is this enough?
This one.
It's enough for the.
Yeah, it's okay.
so that's the part of a long story. That's just a little part of it.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Well, we all just